Welcome to the Dance Reel podcast. I'm Kate Histon. Before we dive into this episode, I would love a favour from you. To help us bring some wonderful guests to our show and grow, please subscribe or follow this channel, like, comment and share with a friend. That would be a great help. Thank you so much. Today on the Dance Reel podcast, I'm speaking with psychologist Dr. Chelsea Pierotti. Chelsea specialises in helping dancers and educators understand the mental side of performance, including confidence, focus, and emotional regulation in high-pressure environments. Chelsea is a former dancer and with a background in academic social psychology and applied performance coaching, she brings a structured and practical lens to the internal demands placed on dancers and how those demands shape both performance and well-being. This episode was sponsored by Master Dancer Mindset. Know yourself, be yourself, and express yourself on and off the stage. Welcome to my podcast, Dr. Chelsea.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
What led you into the world of psychology specializing in dancers?
Sure. So I have I guess I don't want to say traditional, but a long history of being a dancer. And everybody's journey looks different. Mine was heavy in the competitive side of dance all through childhood, and then fell in love with ballet towards the end. I ended up being a professional ballet dancer for a few years, and then went more focused on the academic side. I decided pretty young that I didn't want to be on stage anymore. I learned that I liked teaching the thing more than doing the thing. And that was both true of dance and psychology. So I went and focused more on the academic side and found positive psychology broadly, just that idea that, the everyday human can thrive and work on well-being and not just on mental health from the side of deprivation, like not just the negative, but we can look at the positive.
Yeah, great.
That was a eye-opening moment in my 20s that I was like, that's a thing. We can look at the positive side of this. And so that led me to exploring a lot more in that angle, found sports psychology specifically, completely fell in love with that, and realized that there's very little research and work, especially, 15, 20 years ago, on how this works in the performing arts. And so it very quickly just all clicked for me. It's like, this is where it's supposed to be. It's looking at positive psychology within dance.
Because that's the world you came from. That's great.
Yeah.
So what would you say are some of the most common psychological challenges you see in dancers that they're experiencing today, mainly high performance?
Sure. One of the biggest ones I see right now is in perfectionism and that negative self-talk and those stories that we tell ourselves that get stuck in our head that can hold you back from really pushing through how hard this training is. Like, we know training as a dancer is hard and is long, and there's a lot of setbacks, negative feedback, things that are constantly coming at you. And so I see a lot of dancers, especially in the kind of tween to teen age, struggling with that, needing to be perfect, which then has all sorts of ramifications to how you train and how you perform, and then, not having as long and wonderful of a career as they could. So perfectionism and that negative self-talk, I think, is one of the strongest that I see right now.
What do you find are your most common clients coming to you, and how do you help them?
Sure. So I personally work mostly on a team setting, and that's just my choice in my practice. So I like working with the whole group together, including, I call them coaches or teachers. So it's more of a psychoeducational place rather than a therapy, but I really enjoy working with the whole team, being able to help athletes come together as a team while they're also working through and learning some of this. So usually teams come to me with a few main things. Sometimes it's the actual team building side of things, getting along, getting to know each other, setting goals. I also get a lot on this kind of perfectionism place, which usually looks like we train so well, everything looks good, and then we get on stage and it falls apart. And what happens when it doesn't hit on stage? And as dancers, right, we train, thousands of hours for 2 minutes on stage, and being able to make sure that it shows up when you need it is really challenging and stressful when it doesn't happen. And then that kind of different offshoots of that, where it might be about motivation, it might be about negative self-talk, it might be about a fixed mindset, but they all kind of circle around not being able to train our best or perform our best.
What would some of, like when you said it doesn't quite hit on stage, what would, as an example, some of those reasons be? If you've got a case study you can talk about.
Sure. Yeah. So when something doesn't hit on stage, there's usually a few reasons why. So thinking of a case study. So one reason might be dancers that haven't trained for failure. So I see this with the perfectionism where they want so badly for everything to go well. So they train until it's perfect or train until it feels like I hit it. But that usually means, like, say you have, whether that be a competition routine or a variation that you're working or whatever your context, you have this set of choreography that you want to be perfect. Every time you make a mistake, you just say, nope, start over. And you want to do it until you get all the way through. And then that feels like it should boost your confidence of like, okay, I did it. But what you're actually doing is learning every time you hit a mistake, you quit and start over. And
Yes.
it's the show must go on. Like, that's not how it works. If you make a small mistake, you have to keep going. And so the ones who really fall apart on stage usually have not trained how do I handle a mistake in the moment. So there's handling mistakes kind of in training where you want to analyze the video and look at your technique and figure that out. But then there's also the in the moment mistakes. What do I do when I do blank on choreography for a second, or when I realize I use the wrong arm and the person in front of me is different and now I can see it and I panic? And how do you handle those minute things? Because for a lot of us, it's a small error that we assume was a big error and everybody saw, and then the spiral that happens internally, usually mistake again, mistake again, mistake again, and it implodes. So that's one of the main reasons I see.
I love that you spoke to that. I find when I was training my initial teacher, that's how she would teach. And when I had my school, I seemed to push against that method of teaching because it just didn't work for me. And so I would run the routine entirely. And then over the years developed a system where instead of I immediately give the feedback, ask them how they felt, what was working, what didn't work, and try and keep it balanced.
Absolutely.
Is there anything that you can add to what can work for teachers? I'm just thinking, listening, because there's so many of us that came from old school ways of teaching and, you know, really high standards. And there's almost this sense of, I came from that great school, but now this pulling apart of the pedagogy. And is it actually working now for this generation? Are you finding you're having to re-educate teachers on how to teach?
Yes. And the more and more teachers coming out recognizing, I don't want that. How do I do it differently? So that has shifted. We're seeking a new way to do it in a way that originally I sort of had to push against, like, I promise there's a better way, and people didn't want to hear it. And now they're seeking the better way. Great. So that has changed and is getting better. But there is that shift of, do we have to train that way? And it's a big kind of mission behind what I try to do every time I'm with dancers as well, is that sense of we can have high standards and push each other and high expectations and not destroy the dancer on the way. Like, you can do it, you can do both. You can be warm and encouraging and identity affirming and all of these positive things to help a dancer while also having very high standards. And I think what we're seeing is the swing the other way to coddling and it's okay and don't worry about it. And if we swing too far that way, then you have dancers that won't push through when, again, dance is hard. You're not going to like it every day. Your body's not going to feel 100% every day. And being able to find that balance is, I think, the best mission for current teachers, to balance the high expectations with the warmth and the encouragement to reach those high expectations. It's that sense of, I'm setting the bar way up here because I believe you can do it, and I'm going to give you the tools to help you get there, rather than, I'll speak for myself, where it used to be more, again, the old school of like, here's the bar, you missed it, you're out, rather than here's the bar, how do I help you get there? And I think that's the shift that we're looking for now.
Yeah,
rather than lowering the bar also doesn't help.
With regard to that, do you ever bring nervous system education into your trainings? And is there anything you would like to share about that education?
Sure. When I talk about it with dancers, as maybe you do as well, I don't use a lot of the science medically words with it, but I definitely talk to dancers about it. And it's taking your body from, it's the sympathetic nervous system, but that sense of fight or flight panic. So what many dancers might feel, backstage, or you're in the warm-up floor and a routine next to you looks amazing, or that you see this dancer stretching on the side and you're going, oh my gosh, I don't look like that. All of the panic that starts to happen, and being able to intentionally shift into the parasympathetic and calmer and that rest space, dropping adrenaline, dropping cortisol. It is a neurological shift, a nervous system shift, excuse me. And being able to do that is an important skill. And I think that's what I try to teach dancers is a lot of times we feel like my heart is pounding before I take the stage and I just have to cross my fingers and hope I can do this, rather than recognizing my heart is pounding and I can control that. I can do things to put my body in the better place that I need to be in to perform my best. And what's great about dancers is we're used to controlling every aspect of our body. We're in general, very in tune with ourselves. And so I find dancers pick up quickly to be able to understand, just as you control the articulation of your foot, you can control your heart rate and be intentional about dropping it and bringing it back to whatever the right level is for what you're about to perform.
And I'm also thinking, as I'm hearing you speak about before the performance, I've had parents that might ring, their child may have had performance anxiety, and then it's like, let's speak to someone about it. I'll work through a series of processes that can help them just bring their nervous system down and their calm down, even just in the studio, and having a holistic look at what's really going on. Because some dancers and maybe parents, maybe teachers, they're just thinking all about the performance anxiety. There's a build up to that, and let's have a look at what your self-talk is, even just on a day-to-day basis.
I agree. It's not just the stage. And often we just see that as the problem, and then we want that immediate fix. And there are things you can do to help in that moment, but you're right. It's usually not coming out of left field. Like, what's happening, or you're feeling it in the studio, and maybe it's at a lower level, but it's still there. And so I think it's helpful for dancers either way. Maybe you don't feel it at all in the studio, and then it really just ramps up before you take the stage. That is coming from a different place than the dancer that is struggling with it all throughout training and it amplifies on stage. And so trying to understand, is this a stage specific thing, or is this a consistent training, how we approach our training that then just gets amplified when you're about to hit the stage, and being able to figure out where it's coming from. And for most dancers, there's definitely stuff happening throughout normal life all day. Maybe it's the studio, or they're also doing it at school, or it's happening in other aspects of their life. And so it's holistic, how that's impacting how they show up in intense moments.
One of the things I've found, I'm going to speak to mainly girls, when they hit, say from 10 to tweens to say like 15, 16, maybe you would have more of an idea as to what exact age range. But in my experience, noticing the relational dynamics and how they can affect the performance of the dancer. So if they're having conflict with friends, and even the way sometimes girls can bully each other, which is quite passive. How much does that, in your experience, affect a dancer and their performance?
Oh, it affects it so much. And your age range is spot on, and it is related to our brain development. So we have to think about what's happening with your average 10 to 16-year-old. You're in a phase where comparison is at its highest, where so much of your identity comes from how you compare to other people. So we do it our entire life, but it's at its most then, where a child will notice, oh, I'm the last one to finish my multiplication tables, or, oh, I was the first one to do this, or I'm the tallest, or we just compare for everything. And then in dance, it is really visible, right? Where you can see where you're standing in formation. You might be at the ballet bar behind somebody and their extension is way higher than yours. Like, there's just this visible comparison constantly. And so at a time when that is at its highest, it can definitely cause a lot more attention within friends. And of course, if you're in the competitive side, a lot of the way competitive dance is set up just amplifies all of that. Like, let's just actually rank dancers, and you putting solos against each other, it's heightened. So it does impact performance, especially if you are performing as a group, because we know a big part of our job, and this is the art side of it, even if you're competitive, on the art side, the goal is a connection with the audience, which we know is always enhanced when the dancers feel it themselves and it's not fake. So I always feel like watching dancers who are genuinely connected on stage, you feel that as the audience member. And when they are individually doing their own thing and projecting out, it doesn't land, right? It doesn't have the same impact. So I think it certainly affects the art of it. And then even on things that might be on like a score sheet in the competitive world being, what's the word? The synchronicity behind it.
Yeah, synchronicity.
The uniformity of it.
Yeah.
Like they don't, you lose points on that. You just don't dance together. And so it certainly affects both like score sheet performance, but then also the artistry of what you're expressing. And I think beside performance too, it impacts how you train. And I think that's what has the longer impact. It impacts how you show up in rehearsal every day. If you are willing to go full out, if you hold back a little bit, if you're worried about somebody judging you, I think that's where I see it the most, that dancers who have some tension with their friends, if they're trying to learn a new skill, they won't go full out because they're afraid that somebody will judge them or they'll look stupid. And so they don't want to try these new, harder skills, and they start to plateau. And then they get mad that they've plateaued and I'm not getting any better. But you have to not worry about looking silly as you're learning things and looking like you can't do it. And when that comparison is at its highest, it makes dancers hold back in class.
Do you find, okay, I'm just speaking from my experience. I had a bit of a dance mum, overly zealous, pushed me, try and correct me, didn't play the role of a unconditional, I love you no matter what mum, played the role of that wasn't good, that was good. And so I know for me as a dancer, that impacted my mental health quite a lot.
Yeah.
And back then, I think my mum thought that was also the norm at that particular school. It was a highly competitive ballet school.
Yep.
But now, as I'm a former studio owner and now I do some dance judging, I still see and hear of the dance mum culture pushing their kids, and my heart breaks for those kids. Do you see that a lot? And can you speak to that?
It's still there. Yes, for sure. I also wish it wasn't. I do think it's better and maybe less often, or I would say more school dependent. So now it seems to be, if you are that kind of person, you gravitate towards the kind of school that allows it or encourages it or is coming from the top, versus finding the school where that's not a thing or it's less so. But I definitely do see it. And it's so heartbreaking. And you can get into all the research about how much younger dancers will quit or leave dance with that kind of parenting, or they continue, but resent it or hate it or don't have that love anymore. It definitely impacts a child's desire to keep going, right? And we know whenever I'm talking to parents about, how do I encourage my child? If I have parents that are like, I don't want to be a dance mom, like how do I do that? I always say that, after a competition, after a performance, really the only thing you say is, I loved watching you dance today.
Yeah.
And just stop. It doesn't have to have any corrections or any deeper. And some dancers, if they want to talk, if they want to share about stuff that happened backstage or how I felt in this, like engage with them. But especially after like long shows, long competitions, a lot of dancers just want to check out for a minute. And that car ride home, like just let them be silent, let them check out, like don't let it go. Can be the most powerful thing you can do. Is I loved watching you dance, and then stop.
Button it up. I never experienced that as a dancer, and that's something I say all the time. Just if you're going to encourage as well, encourage effort, not outcome. Like effort first. You put in so much effort, so that their sense of worth isn't measured by the outcome of their performance, especially if they're doing competitions. And definitely,
it's so huge.
I can't preach that enough.
Yeah, praising the things that are in their control, right? So if you only praise an outcome, well, that was a judge's choice, or that was what my teacher decided. But praising things, like effort, like how they are, how prepared they were, that you can tell that they worked hard. It's like, I know you were working on that solo so much and it looked so pretty today. Like just being able to focus on their effort and the things in their control and not anything else. And for parents too, you add the social media piece of like, what does it look like when your child did score really well versus when they don't? And do you only share it if it goes well, or is the language look really different? And even for parents who feel like, oh no, I don't celebrate the win, but then if things do go well, it's so amplified over what they would normally say. Like the message is still there that you are much happier as a parent when the child won. And so how the language you use, how you talk about it, how public it is, all that ties into it.
Yeah. You know, the other week, I've got a 20-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son. Don't laugh. Big age gap. But he was playing tennis and I had to watch I'm a tennis mum, right? Because he's still 6. The parents are allowed to watch, but I'm chatting with other mums, and I also want him to have his space, but he's little. I want to be around if I'm allowed to be around. But apparently he's quite good. He's got quite a good swing. And there was a trophy day and he didn't win a trophy, and I was glad because I thought, this is great. This is a learning opportunity. I want to watch what he does with this piece because I knew he would be upset. And this is like our first thing. And his best friend won the trophy. And he came to me and he goes, Mum, I'm really sad. I'm really sad. And I just said, mate, you're really allowed to be sad.
Yeah.
You feel those feelings. It's all okay. Mm-hmm. And a part of me wanted to overfunction and manage him to protect him from those sad feelings. Yep. I didn't, because I know that's not what is going to make him resilient. And I just let him, and I hugged him, and I just let him talk to me. And he goes, I really thought I'd win a trophy. I thought I'm good. And I never drummed into him, you're good at this, you're good. I tried to stay back knowing and then I just kind of thought, what am I going to say now? Just relax with it. Just relax. My nervous system to his nervous system. And I said, that doesn't mean that you're not good at this and you love it, don't you? Because, I really do. And I go, well, you just started like 6 weeks ago. You started 6 weeks ago. You've got a long journey ahead, and I'm sure that one day you'll win a trophy if you keep at it. Mm-hmm. And I said, but what I would like you to do right now is congratulate your friend who got that trophy. Yeah. And I was so proud of him because I only said it once, and he turned and he said, congratulations, Marlon. And it was so sweet. And then on the way home, he drove and he just told me again how he feels sad. And I just said, I know, mate. That's okay. I love you. I think you're beautiful at tennis. Yeah. And I just felt like I gave him what I didn't have. And I know my mum did the best that she could with the knowledge and awareness she had. It's not to blame, but it really did affect me as a dancer. And it was the reason why I quit, after 2 years of full time. So I just can't drum this enough into parents of how they can support. And so I did notice in myself that little over-functioning piece wanting to, and I was like, no, this is his journey. It's not mine. I just have to be that unconditional support for him. Anyway, I just wanted to share that.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And it says a lot about your relationship and his emotional intelligence that he even said, Mom, I'm sad. And I think that is such an incredible sign at that age to articulate it and to want to share it. And so similarly, my daughter is 9, and there are definitely times when there's the big feelings and the sadness and the anger and, normal emotions that we're handling. And I had the same kind of that gut reaction of like, I have to make this stop. I don't want her to hurt like this. Like that feels terrible. But being able to bring yourself down, and it's that emotional awareness, being able to tell what it is, like label it, why it's okay. You can sit with that, and then practicing that sense of coping of like, when you're sad, what makes you feel better? And is, telling mom, a hug from mom, like all of that is wonderful. And talking about it, congratulating a friend, all makes it feel good. And then as we get older, we learn, hopefully, ways to manage those emotions that aren't from other people. And I do see that from, teenagers, where if they've had really emotionally supportive parents, they do really well for a while, but then like their only coping mechanism is, I have to talk it out with my mom. I'm like, that is wonderful. And I love that you talk it out with your mom. But if you're 17 and you're about to go, like, what else helps you? And being able to, once you're older, not at 6, once you're older, understand what tools help me. Is it journaling? Is it breathing? Is it cooking? Is it going on a walk? Is like, what else helps manage those emotions? And I think that's what we're getting better at. And again, when a dancer maybe, doesn't get the role they wanted or makes a big mistake, or, they don't get into the school and their friend does, like these big events that happen, we want to fix that emotion. We want to tell them, oh, you're the best dancer. They don't know what they're thinking. That's their loss. And
Yeah.
it feels good in the moment, but it's not actually what helps with the disappointments that are going to happen in life. And that, again, exactly what you said, it's detaching that worth from that outcome. It's like, no, I didn't get into the school I wanted, but I'm not a bad dancer because of it. Like that was their choice, but it's not about me.
So would I be correct in saying, like I'm going to say maybe within all of us, like the over functioning part of wanting to protect them, and then the part that maybe, I know I've seen some parents, I'll get on with it, it's okay, like not actually honoring the process of needing to process the feelings itself in the dancer. So what is that middle ground of just,
it's exactly it. And it's like, so shutting down or saying to just get over it also doesn't help, because that teaches that model with the bigger stuff too, is just suppressed feelings. And you see that come out in older relationships as well. So that's what I try to think about as a parent of a little. It's like, yes, it would feel good to protect them right now and to make this stop, but sitting with emotions, just like physically sitting next to her and letting her be sad and hugging her and knowing it's going to be okay, hopefully leads to the adult who can talk about their emotions, express them to a partner, be able to handle their own bad days without stuffing it down and pretending like everything's okay. And it helps me as a parent when that feeling comes up that you just want to make it stop and protect them, of like, what is the long-term outcome I'm going for? And this short discomfort right now is going to help them build this skill that I want. And that's just resilience and mental toughness in general. Like, it's about managing negative emotions, not making them stop.
Yes. And it would be a really great idea, hearing you say that, just the awareness around ensuring that we as parents are also doing that from ourselves, with our own goals. And if we can do that with ourselves and start practicing and modeling that with ourselves, then we're going to have a better chance of really being able to help our young dancers. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And I definitely have to do a lot of my own work along the way. And I think that's a normal part of parenting too, right? Of recognizing what about ourselves comes out in parenting in a way that we don't like. And that's true no matter what your childhood looked like, right? That sense of who am I and how do I want to show up here? And we all have days where like, that was not the parent I wanted to be in this moment. So now what? And we know a lot about the power of repair and just being able to talk to a child and say like, that was, I'm sorry that my voice got so loud or that I said that, and, just doing the repair for it. But we have to do it for ourselves too and work through that a lot.
Oh, thank you for speaking to that. That's really beautiful.
Sure.
And so how can teachers foster psychological resilience in young dancers without increasing pressure? We did mention it before, if there's any other ways that we haven't talked about.
Sure. I think I would just highlight that it is, again, it's that balance of high expectations with the support. And I think for teachers, it comes with a lot of your language. So things like, we're going to do this really hard petit allegro in ballet today, and I'm purposely making it hard because I believe you're capable of doing it. So if you don't get this combo the first time, it's okay. Take a breath. We're going to break it down and try again. And that setup makes it okay for it to not be perfect the first time, and to set that expectation of it's supposed to be hard. And I think that's what dancers need to hear a lot is if I'm learning something new, that fixed mindset is like, if I don't get it right away, I can't, I'm not good enough, I won't. And so instead, using the growth mindset language or setting that expectation of it's supposed to be hard, I believe you can do it, we're going to get you there. And so then you say you do the hard petit allegro combo, sure enough, they don't get it right or they're missing things, then you can break down like, where did we get lost? What part do we need to do again? And work towards a stronger combo that you can feel a sense of like, no, I didn't get it. And I kept going and I broke it down and I fought for it and it got better. And doing that in a microcosm of a few minutes for one combo in class, then just expands from there about the larger choreographic pieces, the, when you're moving levels, like all of the bigger aspects of setting a high bar, but explaining that it's supposed to be a high bar. I believe you're capable, and here are the tools to help you get there. Or if you feel stuck, you have to ask me about it and talk to me about it. Like I want people to talk to me when they're stuck, like just making it that space for mistakes are okay. And the goal of learning is to constantly be pushing, which means it's not going to look good every time you do it. And I think that's where a lot of dancers get stuck is, again, I don't want to try it because what if I look silly, or what if I can't do it and it'll be embarrassing? And so as a teacher, if you set the stage, like I said before, or maybe something like, it takes most dancers a long time to figure this out, or I personally always really struggled with this. This part came easy. These were really hard. It's okay. And just kind of normalizing that journey is different for everybody can make a big difference in the class.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And in your view, what separates a healthy high-performance environment to harmful ones?
So I think the big distinction is whether or not the warmth and support, and not necessarily like from the parent, the unconditional love, but from the teacher also, the worth is not about the outcome. And so the high performance that's unhealthy, your worth is only in the outcome, or only in the perfect technique, or only in the best. So you see a lot of favoritism. You see a lot of shame. So the conversations when somebody makes a mistake of like, I can't believe you just did that. We've been doing the same thing for weeks. So shaming, blaming, that environment when you have the toxic side, right? Versus the high performance side that is more healthy, again, can have high standards where it's okay to get frustrated sometimes. I'm like, okay, we have been doing the same thing for a few weeks now. And like, you can have realistic conversations and have that tone sometimes that has to happen of being more strict. But if it's rooted in a place of care, like your dancers know this level of strict is because our teacher cares and believes and wants more. That's different from the teacher is saying this because she thinks I'm stupid, or she thinks I can't do it, or I'll never be as good as this one. And so that groundwork has to come first. And, dancers can feel it. You can tell, like, this class is so hard, but I love it because she's pushing me because I know I can be better, versus this class is so hard. I've never gotten a compliment in my life. They hate me. And what makes it hard and how you feel about it being hard, I think, is the difference in those stronger, healthier performance contexts versus the ones that have a lot of blame and shame.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you see lots of those ones around still, or do you feel it's getting better, or what?
It's better, but I definitely still see it. I do a lot of work within the school system too, high schools and colleges.
Okay, yeah.
And that's where I see it a lot. There's still some really harsh kind of old school coaching that you might think of even from like old school in like traditional sports. And so that model of like, how do I be this incredibly challenging coach, and I'm going to get the most out of you by being really strict and nasty and demeaning. And what's hard is sometimes that works in the sense that the dancers will perform well on stage, but it's out of fear. It's out of panic and fear and not love for the art. We're seeing more and more conversations and coaches at the elite level. So again, in all sports, where the coaches are coming from a place of care and love and support, with also having the high expectations. And then the magic is you have teams who hold each other to those high expectations. Yeah. And that's the coach and teacher dream of like, I don't have to be hard on you because you are all helping and encouraging each other and holding each other to it. And it's this culture of, rising tides, raise all boats, like that vibe and desire together. So it's definitely still there. And I can see it a mile away. And it's so sad and devastating, but there are more and more schools, academic schools and like ballet schools that I think are moving away from that and seeing success from coming from a better place, coming from a healthier approach to it.
And how can dancers develop identity beyond results and rankings or external validation, especially when they're doing so many competitions a year?
Yeah, when dancers are really competitive, it's hard to have an identity outside of that. And so if I'm talking to dancers about this, yes, it's good to talk about your identity as a dancer outside of competition. So, maybe you're I'm a dancer who loves hip hop. I'm a dancer who loves adagio. Like I love these whatever it is that brings you joy. But actually what's helpful is to keep I call them other identity bubbles. You have like a dancer identity bubble, and then there's a lot of other identities. You're not just a dancer.
Yeah.
For most elite athletes in any context, whatever that sport is becomes your whole identity when you're at that high level. And it's important to remember you're not just that. We give the same advice to new moms. Like, being a mother can be a huge part of your identity. It doesn't have to be your only identity. And anytime we have a singular identity, it becomes very challenging to maintain. And we usually see higher rates of anxiety and depression and all the negative mental states. So instead, as a dancer, noticing, okay, I'm a dancer, but I also like math. I also like Spanish. I also like drawing. I also like being with my friends who are not dancers, right? And being social in some other way and being creative in a different way. So being able to find those identity bubbles that have nothing to do with dance is, especially when you are at an intense competitive level, it's helpful to remind yourself of like, okay, my worth is not just this. My worth is also how I show up as a friend. My worth is also how I work towards this other goal that has nothing to do with dance. And then there's always the side to that of, if something happens, if there is an injury, if there is, the collegiate dancer who then ages out and all of a sudden it's over, your identity is not just dance, that you have those other aspects of who you are that make those kinds of transitions more bearable. They're still challenging, but something that you can work through. So I think you asked originally how teachers and parents and stuff can help build that. And it is talking about things other than dance, like encouraging other, whether they be small hobbies or, the compliments around things that have nothing to do with dance, being able to get to know people as a teacher, like what else do your dancers enjoy? Those small things can make a big difference.
I encourage the dancers I work with. I go bake, go learn, do something in the kitchen, learn, do some art, just some other little mindful things that can get you away from thinking about dance. Because some of them, the ones I work with, they're going home and they're also doing online programs, flex classes. And I'm like,
it's a lot, and it's important. And I was talking to a school who had, like a week off over holiday break, and then we're going to go back, and it was going to be intense season, a competitive season. And so I was very intentional with them. I'm like, what are you doing during this week that has nothing to do with dance? And in their case, nothing to do with school either, because everything's about to ramp back up, right? They're in a very intense academic and athletic scenario. So it's like, what else are you doing? It's like, you need almost like a self-care goal, but it's not about care. It's about, who am I when I'm not in school and I'm not a dancer? And a lot of these teenagers were like, I have no life outside of school and dance. It's like, okay, so that's what we got to think about. Do you like to bake something? Do you want to, some of them are cute. They're like, I actually really want to declutter my closet. That would feel really good. I'm like, good.
Yes.
Like, what else just brings you out of, this is the only thing I ever do and the only thing that makes me worthy? That's really what it comes down to. I'm only good if I'm a good dancer or I'm good at school.
Yeah. I worked with one dancer, and when this particular thing came up and I suggested other things she can do, I noticed she seized up, and it was like the identity wrapped up in that. It's like, no, I can't do that, because then she felt, if I drop the ball on dance, I'm used to this routine. That's dropping the ball. And slowly she ended up baking and like just having fun in the kitchen, just to switch it off, and believe it or not, helped with her anxiety. Just
absolutely.
Having a little switch of, I'm also a person and I can bake and draw and
finding those small moments again. And I've definitely felt that with some dancers, like, I have nothing outside of dance and school, I can't do anything else. Small increments of it. I had a dancer who's like, I used to really love to read. I haven't picked up a book in the last couple of years because high school got hard, and noticing, okay, well, if you didn't get on TikTok and just read for the last 20 minutes before you went to bed, what would that feel like? And starting to notice like, oh, I do have this other side of me that enjoys the creativity and fantasy land in books. And I'm not doing that anymore. Like, how did I lose that? And just finding those small pieces of yourself that either were there or you never had a chance to explore, and keeping those identities a part of who you are.
And I love hearing that, because I actually had a conscious little conversation with myself about stop listening to podcasts all the time. Human behavior, my favorite thing to do. And let's just read a book. Let's read a fiction, and go back into
No, it's important to find those. And I definitely went through that phase bringing it back to motherhood like a lot of people do when you have kids, and it just becomes a shift in how you spend your time and your identity, and all of that is good. And I love having this new piece of my identity. Or same thing if you are in a new relationship, like your identity shifts a little bit, and being able to be intentional around like what parts of these shifts feel really good and what is great and what parts are pulling me away from or getting a little overwhelming, maybe taking over.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And what are some of the early signs of burnouts that teachers and parents can often miss when it comes to their high-performing dancers?
Sure. The burnout can look different than you might think. So I think usually we think of burnout as the ones who are just like tired all the time. And there is definitely the like physical fatigue that comes with it. And as a dancer, that can also look like a lack of coordination. So like not being able to do things they used to be able to do, just being more awkward, less graceful, right? Just they don't look like themselves as a dancer, can be burnout. Certainly higher rates of injury. So small things that shouldn't have resulted in such a hard time to physically recover become very difficult to bounce back from, or big injuries. And then burnout can also look psychological and cognitive, and just kind of checking out, losing motivation, being really irritable. I think that's what we see in a lot of teens, and we blame it on just being a teenager. And it's like, that doesn't have to be a state of being just because you're a teenager. And that sense of irritability and snapping and is often a sign of being that hyperstimulation and having that overwhelm, and not having a way to manage it with these incredibly high expectations of high performers. And to some people, everything looks fine, right? And they're performing super well. And then it's just the like, I don't want to go back next year. And it feels like, what is happening? And they just lose the love of it. You just frankly don't want to do it anymore. Yeah. And it's always the hope that you can catch the burnout well before you get to the point of wanting to completely back away.
It's sad, isn't it? Have you ever worked with anyone that has said that I don't want to do it and then brought them back like just through your work?
Have I personally done that? I don't think so. And I know we have somewhat of an international audience here, but there was an American ice skater in the Olympics that just did this, and she was so powerful, that being Alyssa Liu, and seeing that she was so intense and so competitive, and then was like, I quit, I'm done, I don't want to do it, and didn't skate for like 2 years, and then came back from a genuine place of, I actually really love to skate, and I want to skate because I love it. And I think one, it was public because it was the Olympics, and then she went on to be so successful, but that's what happens. And I think as parents and as teachers, when you see someone who is so talented and then wants to stop for a year, it feels devastating. But it's not necessarily. I guess I did have it one time as a coach. I had a dancer who was so talented, but was also more of a triple threat. She was an incredible singer and an incredible actress. And she was like feeling that sense of dance is not giving me what it used to, and it's just hard, and the team deserves more than that. And basically took 1 year off of high school to do the school musical and to pursue, singing lessons, and then came back to the team a new person, a stronger dancer and a better teammate. And being able to take that year, like, of course we missed her that year, but she was so much stronger for it, on both skills. And then she went on to, the singing became the career and she's so talented in that way. But it's hard to let people take a break, but it can be really, really powerful. Yeah.
And in your opinion, how does the competition culture shape a dancer's psychological development?
Oh boy. Usually not well, unfortunately. Is the way it shapes it is that, again, it brings to the forefront outcome and ranking, and it becomes very challenging to pull that away. And, I was just talking to some dancers recently who, after all their solos, when their friends, first thing they say is like, how'd it go? What'd you get? And like, they just want to know the outcome, and they think they're being friends and they think they're being supportive, but it feels like the only thing you care about is if I scored well. And so it becomes the culture within the team, within all the dancers, and that really visible ranking and visible what feels like defeat, or again, it's so subjective in so many ways. And then we get so wrapped up in other people's thoughts and opinions. So it can shape it really poorly. However, I do think competitive dance, when done well, teaches so many wonderful lessons as well. If it's got the right coaching behind it and or parenting. Hopefully they're not in conflict. It's best when they are working together, but having that ability to build mental toughness. I think athletes have the ability to learn mental toughness in a way that a lot of other kids miss. So dance is just that vehicle for learning. I can take on a challenge and do it. I can build confidence in myself. I can bounce back from mistakes. And so when done well, I think it's incredibly powerful and positive for our developing psyche and how we think about ourselves. But the environment matters a lot.
I'm trying to educate parents and teachers on, if you're going to enter this space, you must do it with awareness and educate yourself on what the process is, on what your role is, how you can support. Like, parents, don't go into judging, don't go into teaching mode with your child, be that unconditional love. Teachers, take the judges' feedback. In Australia, we do a feedback system. I think you do that in the States too, don't you? I haven't judged in the States, but in Europe, they just rank. There's no feedback. So I just did a year of judging in Europe and South Africa, and that no feedback. So I like the feedback, and especially now in Australia, I can give on the microphone that the dancer will get it, so I can have that connection with them and that encouragement. And I feel like that feels good. But long term, if that was taken away from me as a judge, I don't think I could judge anymore. I think ultimately our goal and our priority should be about the mental health and well-being of these children and keeping their love alive. So how can we as the ecosystem around the dancer support that in a way that's ethically sustaining their well-being and their love of dance? So
oh, absolutely. I mean, I've judged a lot too, and I felt similarly. I love audio critiques because I get to have that sense of connection, and you can hear the genuine, like, oh, beautiful, like this, the stuff that you really love to see in the moments, and then the feedback that is, constructive and grounded in what you actually saw and feels real. I wouldn't want to do one that was just pure ranking either. That would be hard for me. I agree. That's hard to do. But being able to have a competitive dance space that doesn't have to just be about that. And there's a few opportunities in the States where conventions, mostly some competitions, are moving more away from the intense ranking piece to how do we give genuine feedback, but not make it about, did I get the scholarship this weekend? Did I? And I'm a failure if I didn't. And being able to have so much love and appreciation for what you learned this weekend and the joy that you had and connecting with your friends. And I think the hard part about competition is you may have loved everything about the whole weekend, and if the last thing you get is a disappointing adjudication, now the whole thing was terrible.
Yes.
And so that's where like teachers and parents and even peers can kind of step in of remembering, like, are you proud of what you did on stage or what you did in class that has nothing to do with this judge's opinion, and being able to constantly pull those apart and separate. So,
Yeah. Oh, and when I judged in Norway, they don't rank under the age of 11 for this reason. So when you're over 11, that's when the judges are allowed to rank. But as a judge, we just had to watch. And
interesting. I like that.
Yeah, same. They seem to know what they're doing over there.
That's a good approach, because often with the younger ones, they don't really know or care. The parents put the value on it. The 6-year-old doesn't know what that high sugar plum platinum meant, but the parent knows. And then that becomes the story where, they don't know. There's no reason to talk about it.
That's so true. Because the first time I performed, I got a second place medal, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it meant. And I walked off stage and I remember feeling really great. And it wasn't until my mum said, you got second. That girl beat you. That she won and you got second. And I will never forget. I went from here to going,
just collapsing.
There's something wrong. And then I became obsessed with getting a first place trophy.
Right.
And it was that piece. Had my mum have just zipped it and gone, well done, you look beautiful. I'm so proud of you. Let's go in the car. Yeah, I didn't need to know that because I didn't understand that at 7 years old.
Absolutely. They don't understand it. And the parents and the teachers put that on it. They put the value on it. So
they really do. Yeah. Well, looking ahead, how do you hope the dance world evolves? And if there's any message that you have to dancers, parents and teachers?
Oh, more of this evolution of caring about the whole person and being able to do a more holistic approach. I do think we've swung a little bit too far into the coddling side as well, and that's not helping. And I think people will assume sports psychologists are, if you're focused on well-being and mental health, that you can't have challenge. And that's what I want to push back on. And that the message is you can have both. You can have challenge, you can have high expectations, you can celebrate even awards and wins, and also have the supportive environment and the warmth, and make sure the focus and the identity piece is not just on dance. And so finding this balance of high expectations with the warmth and the help to get there. And, it's the same thing with a good manager and a good parent. Like it's all the same research. It's all the same cross. And that's what I would love to see in the dance world, is continuing to have the challenge and the high expectations, because we know how incredible that feels to have worked really hard for something and then gotten it. And I don't want to take that away from kids, but to do it with, this is hard, but I believe you can do it. I'm going to help you get there. And being able to let kids reach those peaks that they can be proud of, that they know they did the work to get there. And then learning all the good stuff that comes with that, the resilience and mental toughness that we know dance can teach us.
And if done right, it can set them up for life. Even if they don't follow dance as a career, that intrinsic motivation for the passion that you love and the discipline and being able to get up and show up. And it's incredible. Hey,
so many good things come from dance. And I, even growing up in a really intense space, I have so many good things in my life today that I'm like, nope, I did that because I was a dancer. Like I know that I was able to push through and persevere because of what dance taught me. But it could be more positive and supportive along the way. And again, like you said the same of that, my so many good teachers along the way. I had wonderful teachers. I had teachers that were really strict, lots of different lessons from different people who just are doing what they knew at the time. And now we can change kind of that teaching culture to try to incorporate both.
Oh, I love hearing that. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I was just, for people listening, how can they find you and see what you're doing online?
Well, sure. So one of the, I guess, best places would be to start with my podcast. It's Passion for Dance.
Great.
So you can find passionfordancepodcast.com. It'll have all of the back episodes. There's hundreds. A lot of it is towards teachers, but I definitely have episodes directed towards the dancers. And I've heard teachers just play the episodes for their dancers, even if it's towards the teacher. So lots of ways to dig into the positive psychology of dance there. So passionfordancepodcast.com.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.